Good day, students. You're welcome to LODS lecture series. I'll be taking you through a quick talk on SS3, capital markets and portfolio theory. This video is for Special 3, investment returns. Do enjoy me as we go through this video. Introduction. A return is the ultimate objective for any investor, but a relation between return and risk is a key concept in finance, as finance and investment areas are built upon a common set of financial principles. The main characteristics of any investment are investment return and risk. However, to compare various alternatives of investment, the precise quantitative measures for both of these characteristics are needed. After you might have studied this session, you should be able to discuss the concept of return, and you should be able to explain the historical performance of return, and lastly, you should be able to discuss the time value of money. Concept of return. Return means the level of profit from an investment, that is, the reward for investing. What motivates an investor is to invest in a given instrument, which is the expected return. Return is the benefit associated with an investment. In most cases, the investor can estimate his or her historical return precisely. The expected rate of return of investment is the statistical measure of return, which is the sum of all the possible rate of return for the same investment weighted by probabilities. We have this. Expected return, E, which is the expected return, is equal to summation of, we have I ranges from 1 to n, and we have the probability, which is HI, multiplied by the expected rate of return. So this formula can be easily converted to expected return to be equals to average weight of return 1 together with the rate of return plus the second weight with its return, and so on and so forth. So that is the formula to calculate expected value of a return. You may have two portfolios. Example of two portfolios is this, whereby you have the average, the first average at the return, and the second average. So this is two portfolios. We may have many portfolios. That's exactly what I mean by return. So now let us look at the example of expected return. For a simple portfolio of two mutual funds, one investing in stocks and the other in bonds, if the expected stock fund to return 10% and the bond fund to return 6%, and our allocation is 50% to each asset class, what is the expected return? In this case, we have two portfolios. We have the stock. So the first portfolio that we have is stock, and the second portfolio that we have is bond. In this case, we have two portfolios. As illustrated here, we have the expected return to be with. So with 1, we have this. Then with 2, we have this. In this case, this formula can be transformed to be expected return is equal to weight of stock multiplied by the expected return of stock plus weight of bond, then the expected return of bond. This is the formula for this particular example. In this case, the weighted average, since the bond allocation is 50% to each asset class, automatically we have 50% for stock and we have 50% for the bond. So now, if the 50% is attached to each class of assets, automatically the expected return will be the probability of the stock fund, which is 10%. 10% has been converted to. Then the allocation for the stock is 0.5. So then plus the stock return for the bond, which is 6%, which is converted to 6 over 100, which is 0.06. And the allocation is what? 50%. At the end of the day, you get 8%, which is the final answer for that. So investment analysis and portfolio management. Many investments have two components of their measurable return. We have a capital gain or loss, some form of income. The rate of return is the percentage increase in returns associated with holding period. The rate of return is equal to the income plus capital gains or purchase price, which is measured in percentage. Component of returns. The return on an investment may come from more than one source. The most common source is periodic payments such as dividends or interest. The other source of return is appreciation in the value of your investment instrument, that is the gain from selling an investment instrument for more than its original purchase price. We call these two sources of return current income and capital gain respectively. Under the base of current income, this current income may take the form of dividend from stocks, interest received from bonds, rent received from real estate, and so on. To be considered to be an income, it must be received in form of cash or be readily convertible into cash. For our purpose, current income is usually cash or near cash that is periodically received as a sort of owing an instrument, an investment. Capital gain or losses. The second type of return is concerned with the change in the market value of an investment. Investors pay a certain amount of an investment from which they expect to receive not only current income but also the return of the invested funds sometimes in the future. The amount by which the proceeds from the sale of an investment exceed its original purchase price is called a capital gain. In the contrary, if an investment is sold for less than its original purchase price, we have what is called capital loss. Significance of return. Return is a key variable in investment decision. It allows us to prepare the actual or expected gains provided by the various investments with the level of return we need to be fairly compensated for the risk involved. For example, you'll be satisfied with an investment that has a 12% if your original expectation is that it should earn at least 1%. Conversely, you will not be satisfied with an investment that earns 15% return if your original expectation is that it should earn at least 20% return. Return can be measured in a historical sense, or it can be used to formulate future expectation. Historical performance of return on investment. Historical performance of return of investment can be recognized that the future performance is not guaranteed by past performance. They will agree that the past data often provide meaningful basis for formulating future expectations. A common practice in the investment world is to look closely at the historical performance of a given instrument when formulating expectations about its future. Because interest rate and other measures of financial return are most often cited on an annual basis, evaluation of past investment return is typically done on the same basis. Return on investment. We have the level of return. The level of return achieved or expected from an investment will depend on a variety of factors. The key factors are internal characteristics and external characteristics forces. We have the internal characteristics. Certain characteristics of an investment affect its level of returns. Examples include the type of investment instrument, the quality of management, the way the investment is financed, and the customer base of the issuers. For example, the common stock of a large and well-managed company will be expected to provide a level of return higher from that of a small and poorly managed firm. Assessing internal factors and their impact on return is one important step in analyzing potential investment. External forces. External characteristics such as Federal Reserve actions, shortage wars, price controls, and political events may also affect the level of return. None of this is under the control of the issuer of the investment instrument. Because investment instruments are affected differently by this factor, it is not unusual to find two instruments with similar internal characteristics offering significantly different returns as a result of the same external force. The expected return from one instrument may increase whereas that of another decreases. Likewise, the economies of various countries respond to external forces in different ways. Another external force is the general price level that changes either upward caused by inflation or downward caused by deflation. Inflation, as you know, that is a general increase in the level of price of goods and services, tends to have a positive impact on certain types of investment instruments, such as real estate, a negative impact on others, such as stocks and fixed income securities. Rising interest rates, which normally accompany increasing rate of inflation, can significantly affect returns. The time value of money. The idea that money available at the present time is worth more than the same amount in the future due to its potential earning capacity. This core principle of finance holds that provided money can earn interest, any amount of money is worth more than sooner it is received. Also, time value of money refers to as present discounted value. Time value of money refers to the fact that as long as an opportunity exists to earn interest, the value of money is affected by the point in time when the money is expected to be received. Because opportunities to earn interest on funds are readily available, the sooner you receive a return on a given investment, the better. The time value of money impacts business finance, consumer finance, and government finance. Time value of money results from the concept of interest. We have the interest rate. A saving account at the bank is one of the most biggest forms of investment. The saver receives interest in exchange for placing idle funds in an account. Interest can be viewed as rent paid by a borrower for the use of the lender's money. The saver will experience neither a capital gain nor a capital loss because the value of investment will increase only by the amount of interest, and we have the simple interest. This is the income paid on such instrument as certificate of deposits, bonds, and other forms of investment. Specific relation of time value of money. We have the net present value, lets you value a stream of future payment into one lump sum today, as you see in many lottery payouts. We have the present values, tells you the current worth of a future sum of money, and we have the future value, gives you the future value of cash that you have now. Let's quickly look at the calculation on time value of money. From the example given above, which will you prefer? Is it 100,000 naira today or 120,000 naira a year from now? Now looking at the formula. So the future value formula, we have FV, the present value, into 1 plus I. This I is the rate of interest raised power n. In this case, the question says, which one will you prefer? 100,000 naira today. This 100,000 naira is our present value. So now, if this present value is converted in a year's time, what will you have? The future value of converting the 100,000 naira will now be 100,000 naira into 1 plus. Let's assume the rate of interest is 20%. So if the rate of interest is 20%, this will be 20% raised power. The number of years is just one year time. We have 100,000 into 1 plus 0.2 raised power 1. At the end of the day, we have 100,000. So we have 1.2. So the final answer is 120,000. In this case, if you receive 100,000 naira today and you receive that the same 100,000 in a year time, the value of that 100,000 today and 120,000 that you received a year time have the same amount. Either you receive that 100,000 naira today, you still get 120,000 naira in a year's time, or you receive that 120,000 a year from now, you still get the same thing. But the moment the number of years has changed, let's assume they now ask you that. So if the end has been changed to, let's say, 2 or 3 years, in this case, the present value will automatically change. Since the present value is 100,000, If you receive this 100,000 naira today, it will pay you because your future value will now be equals to 100,000 into 1 plus using the same interest rate, which is 20%. 20% into 2. In this case, we have 100,000 into 1.2 raised power 2. This will now be 100,000 1.44. This is 2, don't forget. So we have 144,000. In this case, this 144,000, your present value of receiving 100,000 has been changed to 144,000. So it's better for you to receive that 100,000 now instead of receiving 120,000 in 2 years' time. Simple interest. Let's assume a bank lends you 55,000 naira at a simple annual rate of 3%. How much interest do you owe 10 years later? In this case, this one is very simple. You're given this 55,000 naira is your principal. 55,000 is your principal. Your rate is 3%, which is converted to 3 over 100, 0.03. And your time in 10 years later is 10. By substituting the above 5 values into this formula, we have I to be equals to 55,000 multiplied by the rate, which is 0.03 times the t, which is 10. So at the end of the day, we have 16,500. Then the question says, how much interest do you owe 10 years later? Amount will be equals to principal plus interest, and our principal is equal to 55,000 plus the interest gotten. We have 16,500. At the end of the day, we have the amount to be equals to 71,500 naira. Compound interest. Compound interest is paid not only on the initial deposit, but also on any interest accumulated from one period to the next period. This is the method usually used by saving institutions. When interest is compounded annually over a single year, compound interest and simple interest provide similar results. In this case, the stated interest rate and the true interest rate are equal. Note this formula. We have A to be equals to P into bracket 1 plus R over N raised to power NT. We have A to be equals to the amount accumulated, the P to be principal, the rate to be interest, and R to be interest rate, and S to be compounding per period, and T is the number of period. So now let's quickly look at this example. You win the lottery and get 1 million naira. You decide that you want to invest all of the money in a saving account. However, your bank has 2 different plans. In 5 years from now, which plan will you provide you with the more money? We have the plan 1, which is the bank gives you a 6% interest rate and compounds the interest each year. The second plan is the bank gives you a 12% interest rate and compound the interest every 2 months. So from the formula we have A to be equals to principal into bracket 1 plus R over N into bracket NT. So in this case, the first plan, we have first plan, which is 6% interest rate, 6% interest rate, and compounding the interest each month. In this case, we have A to be equals to, what is the principal from the question? The principal is 1 million naira. 1 plus, what's our rate? This is 6%. 6% into bracket, the number of years is 12. Then we have our 12 times 5. So the n is 12, the time is what? 5. So we have 1 million naira to be equals to 1 plus 0.06 over 12 to be equals to, we have 1 million naira to be equals to 1 plus 0.06 over 12 raised power 60. At the end of the day, you get your final answers to be equals to 1,348,850.15. So for the second plan, so we have A to be equals to P into bracket 1 plus R over N raised power NT. So we have A to be equals to, the P is 1 million naira into 1 plus, the rate of interest is 0.12 over 6 into 6 times 5. So in this case, the final answer is 1,811,361.58. So if you compare the two answers, you discover that the option 2 will be chosen because it gives the highest value of money. We have come to the end of these study sessions. Hope to see you next class for study session 4, where we'll be discussing concept of risk. Thank you for listening.